Notice is hereby given that the Mayor and City Council of the City of Nogales will meet in study session and special session on Wednesday, December 14th, 10 a.m. Call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Madam Clerk.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And please rise for invocation. Mr. Billy will give you the invocation first.
Our Father in heaven, we are grateful to be gathered together this morning as a community. We're grateful for this form of government that allows us the freedoms that we enjoy in this good country. We're grateful for a local leadership that strives to put first and foremost the greatest interests of the community. And we pray as we deliberate today on matters of city business that Thy Spirit will be here to accompany us in the discussions, that we may move forward in a manner that is in our best interest. We're grateful for this wonderful time of the year and the opportunities that it presents to provide service, and we pray for those who are in need, and we ask for these blessings and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Mr. Bill. Item number 3, call to the public. We have, is this Lucia, is it? Lucia? I can't understand. Lucia? Or Lucia Guerreña? You please approach the podium.
Buenos días. Veníamos a hablar referente al problema que traemos con el Cold
¿Sí puede su domicilio? Y...
Sí, 625 Norte Sonora.
Ok, gracias.
Es referente al Holy Cross, ¿no? De la casa de ancianos que está por cerrar. Pues queríamos una petición, a ver si usted nos pudiera ayudar, ¿no? Porque se me hace injusto que estas personas son ahorita, mañana seremos nosotros. Nos los estamos llevando a Tucson, a Sierra Vista. Entonces, para uno, ahorita que están muchas personas sin trabajo, va a ser imposible de irlos a ver a ellos. Aparte de ellos necesitan a su familia, más que nunca, ¿verdad? Quizás ellos no nos vayan a durar mucho, pero no hemos recibido ayuda ni de usted, ni de los board members, ni de nada. Entonces, queríamos saber en qué forma usted nos pudiera ayudar, en qué forma pudiera usted o hacer en otra parte una casa de ancianos que no se movieran de su ciudad, porque a ellos les va a afectar bastante. Ahora, Nogales tenemos de 45,000 a 50,000 habitantes en el condado de Santa Cruz, y se me hace injusto que se tengan que ir a vivir a otra parte porque no hay persona que nos pueda ayudar aquí en Nogales. Las casas que hay ahorita actuales son personas que se puedan levantar ellos y hacer sus necesidades por ellos mismos. A las personas que nos estamos llevando, o personas que tienen embolio, sufrieron algún accidente, tienen Alzheimer's y que ellos ya no pueden hacer cosas por ellos mismos. Entonces queríamos en qué forma usted nos puede ayudar, porque yo me recuerdo cuando usted andaba, señor Garino, jugando. Nos prometieron muchas cosas, ¿verdad? Entonces, a ver si es posible y podemos recibir ayuda de usted.
Muchas gracias. Y ya, pues, en esta agenda del Call to the Public es una cosa que no podemos nosotros contestar mucho, pero sí estoy trabajando en eso ahorita yo. Cuando yo tenga los resultados, ayer estuve con la gobernadora en Tucson, y cuando tenga resultados, entonces yo ya voy a poder traer un reporte que le voy a presentar al manejador y al abogado de la ciudad y a los regidores, y en ese tiempo vamos a ver qué podemos hacer, pero sí estamos trabajando en eso.
Queremos que nos tenga al tanto la representante de nosotros, la señora María Sedgwick, y queremos que sí, por favor, también le pueden informar a él.
No, seguro
que nos ha ayudado bastante, y piensen, ¿no? Que ahorita son ellos y a nosotros no nos falta mucho. Para mañana seremos nosotros.
Y también voy a hablar con los representantes del hospital.
Está bien.
Okay. Muchas gracias a usted. María López Sedgwick.
Good morning, Maria Lopez, 157 South River Road here in Nogales. We asked to be put on the agenda. We were not given an agenda item. I wish to know when we will get that agenda item, because we really have to have back and forth discussion. Last month you promised to work with us, to join with us. So far there has been no indication of that, not at the vigil, not by granting us an agenda item. It's pretty hard to get a hold of you, to actually get you to respond to our petitions. And since last month we asked to be put on the agenda, and would like to know when we will be put on. As time passes, now there are only 14 people left. And we all know that the rest of those, the 14 that have been sent out for their sure death somewhere. They left crying, they left sad, their families aren't able to visit with them every day anymore. And we frankly needed to know what you have done in conjunction with the county, because I think this is a matter that is dealt with by working together and by listening to the people, to us. What is important to us. This is a community that is plagued with racism, with hunger, with unemployment, and we really needed to be heard today and to have the discussion again as to what is it exactly that you are doing, so that we can then know what else we can do. And yet you chose not to put us on the agenda, and by January, you know, I would imagine they will probably all be gone. Because by 3rd of February was the date that Carondelet gave us. And all we were asking is for 1 year to be able to resolve this in-house here in Nogales. And I just don't see anything happening in the impending moment that this is, because 3 months was just not enough, and you're not responding to what it is that you did. By you meeting with the governor, it says nothing. You know, we really needed to know exactly what it was that you have been doing, and have you been working with the county. And you promised us this last month, and I was shocked that we weren't given an agenda item. I am once again requesting to be put on the agenda for January, which is our right to be put on the agenda.
I'll take that into consideration, and we have talked to the county. We haven't got a response yet from the county. We have talked to Carondelet, and at this moment, Carondelet finds himself in a situation financially. That's what they told us. And the only recourse we have, Maria, is going after our legislators and the governor and our Congressman Grijalva. We don't have any other recourse. As a city, financially, we don't have a recourse for this. So we have to go outside.
I realize that.
But it's not something that, Maria, that just by placing you on the agenda, it's going to get solved. And placing you on the agenda, we might discuss the issue, but you have to wait until we do our job to try to get something out of it.
That's all we wanted, to have the discussion. That's why we asked to be placed on the agenda, to understand what it is that you are doing.
But we had that discussion once before already. Didn't you have, you were on the agenda on this item already once before?
Last month.
Yes.
And you promised to work on it and let us know what was going on.
Yes.
So we thought, okay, next month we will be on the agenda again.
No, you wait until we get something before we put you on the agenda, my dear. We just don't put it on the agenda every month like that. That will just bring discussion. What we need to do is we need to have something to be able to respond and something to be able to bring back to you. If we don't have that right now, we'll just have another discussion again.
So what you're saying is that in a month, that's it. You met with the governor, and that's all you've done, and we have to wait. Are we waiting for a response from the governor?
Well, that's what I'm waiting. I'm waiting, yes.
What did you answer for?
Well, that's not something I can talk to you about right now.
I see.
That's because this is called to the public. Okay?
Right.
Okay, so...
Call to the public means you won't respond.
No, yes, I will respond, Maria, but this is not the time right now.
That is why we needed an agenda item, to have this discussion.
What I'll do is I'll schedule a meeting with you and your representatives during this month, before the next council meeting, and then we'll see if there's something we can put on the agenda.
Okay? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Maria. Is there anybody else in call to the public? Item number 4, consent agenda. Do I have a motion for A, B, and C?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion for A, B, and C, but I would like I do have a question on A.
You wanna pull it and discuss it?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we'll pull A and let's make a motion and go through A, B, and C. We have a second?
I'll second.
We discuss, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We're going to discuss item A on the consent agenda.
Yes, Mr. Dilly, I think that we went into this agreement, I guess, what, 6 months to 9 months ago?
I think it was January when you guys actually approved the agreement that we're in today.
Okay.
And it was for 1 year. The reason why this item is on the agenda, the way that it's on the agenda, is because we're at a crossroads where either where we needed to make a decision on the future of our relationship with Fry District in terms of our ambulance building. And the reason why the item is specific to asking for another 1 year extension is because the way insurance billing works, there's quite a delay, a time delay. You get a claim in the system, and depending on what type of insurance it is, Access or Medicare or Medicaid, sometimes it can lag up to 4 months or more in terms of getting that, those claims processed and the revenue eventually hitting our coffers. Because of that, we didn't feel like we had all the information that we wanted to have or felt comfortable having to recommend to the council a long-term relationship with Fry or to move in a different direction. And we felt that by granting a 1 year extension, basically just saying, hey, we're still trying you out, we could take the full advantage of that data and then give you a solid recommendation. And it should be telling that we're asking for a 1 year extension in that what we see is more on the positive than the negative. We're certainly not losing money. We're seeing some upticks in some of our revenues, but it's not where we had forecasted we would be, which still puts a little bit of a shadow on maybe whether or not this is the ultimate best course of action for the city. And so the 1 year extension we feel would give us what we need to be able to give you a good comprehensive recommendation in moving forward.
Okay, Mr. Dilly, I think when the city of Nogales was doing it, or the fire department was doing it, we were anywhere between 25 to 37% that we were collecting money.
Right.
What percentage is Fry's doing? Or do we have that? I mean, had we increased our billing by $100,000 a year, $150,000? Because I believe a lot that was dependent of the fire department was based on an increase from ambulance services.
Yes, it was.
Yes, and last year it never came to fruition, right?
We engaged Fry later than we thought we would.
Yeah,
so
but everything else didn't come in the way it was supposed to come in.
That's right.
So I mean, is Fry's up? Is our collection up 10%?
So I
Is
think
our
I'll have our
collection up?
finance department field that specific question.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and council members and members of the public. The data that I have, when we compare last year when Fry was not doing the billing, when the city of Nogales was doing the billing, and since Fry has taken over, we are up currently at $24,000. Like I say, that's less than a year. That's data on less than a year.
But what percentage are we collecting? Are we up from what? I don't remember the exact deal because we never got an exact number, but it was anywhere from 25% to 37% is what we were collecting. What percentage are they collecting of our bills?
I can't tell you the percentage right now, Mr. Anisia. I can tell you though that it has increased from 2010 to 2011. I can get that data for you.
Well, how about the first 6 months that did it, like from January of this year to July or August of this year? Do you have any information there?
Well, the information that I have is that they have increased collections by $24,000.
Yeah, but we don't know. But you could have billed a lot more. So that
true. I mean, I can get you a report where I can give you that information in terms of percentages.
Here
and how much
the
they
problem
have
is we're
collected.
supposed to make a decision today, right? The report tomorrow is not going to do us any good because we got to make a decision today, right? Whether we will continue or not. I mean, Mr. Dilly, is it? Obviously, I understand that 1 year is a trial area, but by now we should have discovered: are we are we ahead, are we equal, or are we behind? I mean, that's a simple question. If they're only billing 2% more, and with how much have we paid them for their collection? So to me, it looks like we've collected less money than last year. If we figure out the percentage we gave them.
Okay, so, you know, going back to my initial comments, we didn't get out the gate as fast as we would like to have because of the delay in transferring our accounts to them and them starting the billing process. We really didn't see any kind of measurable benefit the first 6 months of the year, principally because of how these billing cycles play out. What I'm hearing from finance, and the reason why we're asking for a year extension, is that we have seen measured progress since that first 6 months, but it's not a full year's worth of data that we feel comfortable making you know, hey, this is how we want to play things out. Are we at a loss, Terry? When we consider the expense to Fry that we pay out for their administrative services, are we at a loss or are we at the benefit?
We're at a benefit. We're right there. I mean,
is it a wash or is it a loss?
It is a wash. It is a wash right now. But taking into consideration that, you know, we didn't get started in January. The agreement was approved in January. It takes at least 3 to 4 months to get those claims to come back to the city. So there's a 3 to 4 month delay in getting the revenues based off of the billings and the claims.
And I guess from my perspective, Mayor and Council, if we're not at a loss position and we don't have the full benefit of our data, I didn't see any harm in recommending that we move forward with a 1-year extension on this agreement to see what we can squeeze out of this relationship. Historically, they have had numbers up to about 70% collection success. They do this service for Douglas, they do it for Sierra Vista, and their success rate is something that was very appealing to us when we were first looking at this relationship. You know, I think it represented our best chance right out front, our quickest best chance to start realizing added benefit in our insurance billings. If at the end of this next year cycle we're not seeing that benefit, then absolutely we're going to be looking at different alternatives and bringing forward some options for council to consider. We just didn't feel like we had enough information from our relationship, given the environment and everything at play, to make that recommendation to you at this time.
Just
would you like to table this and discuss it in January?
I don't think we need to table.
Okay.
But my question is, how much have we paid them in what they bill us?
We pay them, I believe it's
3,200.
3,200.
32,000?
3,250 a month.
$3,250 a month.
Correct.
So we paid them roughly $36,000.
Right. You know, at the same time, that position that used to dedicate to the claims, we've actually utilized that position to address the needs of the revenue department, freeing up, I want to say, that position to address a position that was frozen. So, you know, we don't have that position that's dedicated to claims. Rather, that was part of the contractual services with Fry, where they do the billing because they've got the expertise, they've got the equipment. They're the ones that if they don't receive payment, they send it to collections. And so we weren't doing that activity, whereas they've got, I want to say, trained personnel. And we had an employee who had been with the city for a couple of years who was still learning the process of the billing and the claims. So again, you know, Fry District, you know, they do billing for other municipalities. They've got other contractual services with other municipalities and other, I want to say, cities. And again, I want to say their activity is a lot more than the cities. So taking that into consideration, we put this item on the agenda so that you could consider extending it for an additional year. Like Mr. Dilly mentioned earlier, the information that we have, a year it may not be enough for this type of activity. Again, reason being, it takes 3 to 4 months to get those claims in. When claims either come in or they don't, you know, they have to do their collection activity. That is not something that takes a couple of months, that takes time.
Mr. Dilly?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, what I'm trying to get to the bottom of is if a company like Fry Fire, who does this professionally in terms of, you know, billing these insurance claims, which is a very complicated task. If they come back to us and say, listen, we're able to hit 70% plus in claim returns for these other jurisdictions, but for some reason we're not able to do it here in Nogales, they would be in a better position to help us understand why we can't realize that here, or what we have to do to eventually realize that here, than anybody internally. And I want to be able to get to that point, because if we have to go in a different direction, either doing it again internally, we're going to have to staff up to that, and I want to know what specific skill set we need to have in order to be successful at it. And I think our relationship with Fry is our best chance in educating ourselves on what kind of Goliaths we experience as we try to operate an ambulance and bill. So,
All right, thank you. Mr. Dilly? Go ahead, Mr.
I think if we're standing still, not having an initiative to go start learning the process of the insurance, I think we should start right now, so we can keep it there 37,000 a year, you know, instead of Cielo Vista. You know, everything's difficult at the beginning,
yes.
but there's a way to do it. There's a lot of shortcuts to get into.
Yes, sir. I agree. Thank you for the comment.
Do you make a mo, do you need to?
Should we have a motion to continue for one more year?
I make the motion.
Yes.
Para hacer-
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Dilly. Item number 5, discussion allocation of flood control district revenues. Mr. Dilly, you have somebody who's going to...
I think I'll jump out on this one. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I've had enough of you come into my office and express a concern about our relationship with the county flood control district, their practice or lack of practice, depending on how you're looking at that, in terms of allocating revenues garnered from the district for flood control projects, not happening in the Nogales area proper, city of Nogales proper. That I felt that it would be important just to have and engage the council in a discussion on this item. In the packet, there was a letter. It's draft. It's indicated as draft. It has not gone out. In fact, I never even gave it to the mayor for his consideration and signing. And I included it just as a discussion point. I know that I got some phone calls over the weekend about what we were really trying to do with this. I know that the paper called me, and really it is nothing more than just trying to spur the discussion, because I know several of you have expressed concerns about our relationship and how the county is weighing projects region-wide as well as local here as the county seat. And so we can just engage in a discussion about that. Some have expressed a concern or a desire to say, okay, district, if we had it our way, we would want the district to, we would want the district to say, okay, X number of dollars are generated in property taxes for the district here in the city of Nogales proper. And we want 100% of those dollars to stay in the city of Nogales proper. I totally understand and see the benefit of that. But I have practical experience outside of the city of Nogales that would cause me to advise the council that that's not very practical. I'll give you an example. In the town of Wickenburg, a community of 7,000 or 8,000 people, there is an incredibly large capital improvement project that was necessary to take a large portion of the city's downtown merchants and community out of the floodplain. okay? It was like, 10 or $15 million project. And Nogales, Wickenburg, if we would have asked Maricopa County Flood Control District to do kind of that same thing, it would have taken years and years and years and years and years for the city of Wickenburg to generate enough property tax to have paid for that project. It was through a very clear, transparent, very fair process that the Flood Control District in Maricopa County had adopted that allowed the community of Wickenburg to go and advocate the need for this project. And I know for a fact that there were tax dollars that came in from Goodyear and from Peoria and from Phoenix that ended up helping to pay for this project in the city of Wickenburg. And that is how these districts work, and they have to work. And so this letter contemplated that. It recognized that really, in all fairness to a district, there should be a process put into place where projects are evaluated on a yearly basis and they're prioritized in terms of need, and those monies are allocated the best that they can as government officials to the areas that need it the most. And that may very well be the city of Nogales proper, but sometimes it might be someplace else. And this letter is identifying the fact that I don't feel like, and unless you guys feel differently, we don't feel like there is a solid process in place at the county level relative to their capital improvement projects that goes to that kind of prioritization. And in other words, they don't have a well-defined system to identify these projects. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but this letter is encouraging that kind of dialogue to happen so that if they do have that kind of process in place where the Board of Supervisors is evaluating these projects on a yearly basis, then the city becomes better informed about it, and we move forward more aggressively in advocating our project needs. But that's what this letter was supposed to do. I would assume that this is the type of discussion that would play very well on a joint agenda discussion between the councils, mayor and council, and the Board of Supervisors. And when I attended their meeting last week, 2 weeks ago, the Board of Supervisors, all three of them expressed an interest and a desire to have a meeting like this, probably towards the end of January, or the middle to the end of January, where the council, the city council, and the Board of Supervisors could come together on a joint agenda and talk about matters that kind of cross that line, the jurisdictional line, and this might be one of them. But I wanted to engage in discussion and get your thoughts and concerns out on the table to help me and the mayor kind of form that agenda with the Board of Supervisors as we move forward.
Mr. Dilley, would it be wise to have our staff, engineering and public works, look at possible projects within the city so that we can be more prepared for that in case?
Sure. Absolutely.
Because the county will concentrate. They have a tendency of concentrating a lot in the county, not the seat of the county, which is Nogales.
Right.
So if we prepare ourselves and then we can have that negotiation with the county and we can resolve this in that manner, then we can have something from engineering that we can present, and then they can schedule it as a project, future project for us. I know they're strapped right now with those two bridges that they're trying to build, and I don't know if they're going to be strapped for many years, for what I understand, but 20 years or so, and unless we get another 50,000 people within our county that generate taxes to be able to support those projects, it's going to be very hard for the county. But I think this is one way we can do it. Can that meeting in January, can that be brought a little closer to the beginning of the month? Or how are we at with the county on that? Because there's other things we need to discuss with the county besides flood control.
Absolutely. So it can be moved to whenever suits both parties' agendas best, and if that's sooner than later, so be it. There's nothing tying us to the middle or the end. That's just what they floated at the meeting 2 weeks ago. The other thing that we talked about, was the fact that Mr. John Hayes, their floodplain administrator, has been in that capacity for long enough, and to be personally and professionally aware of the flood control issues that exist not only in the county region but in the county seat. And that was, John pointed that out very clearly. They were leaning on the city. Well, how come you haven't brought forward any projects? Well, the response was, well, how come Mr. Hayes hasn't advocated as the flood control administrator for the city as well? What projects are in the most need? So it kind of goes both ways. The county is aware of the needs of the city seat or the county seat from a flood control standpoint. They had to say something in that meeting, to kind of cool the heat off a little bit. I understand that, but the reality is that everybody's aware of what issues are out there. These two projects just seem to have been on the books so long, and there was a lot of mounting pressure that I think that's the way it played out.
Because I requested to the chair, he was in my office, the supervisor, and a meeting in November. Okay. And he said we would have a meeting in November. And then later on I got wind that it'd be in the spring. And I said, well, the spring is too late for the issues that we have. We need to.
Maybe what we can do, and because it's a little off point, we'll end the discussion here unless I hear something different from the council. Is Mayor, you and I can put a proposed agenda together and fire that off, and see how they respond to those items. And I think that's the biggest holdup to scheduling a meeting, is putting the agenda together. So if we can propose an agenda, and if any of the council members has something they would like to discuss, then maybe get with the mayor and we can put that stuff together, or with me, either way.
Something like that, Mr. Parada.
Okay.
Vice Mayor.
I got some put in the agenda.
Okay. So either way, mayor or myself, and we'll get those on there as a proposed agenda, and we'll fire that off. Obviously, flood control projects and a presence by the county is one of those issues that need to be discussed, and we can move forward.
Well, thank you. Should we continue, or is there any more discussion on this? No? Item number 6, discussion regarding enforcement of ordinance number 0. Is that a 0 or a 0? 020, okay, 2008-12-009 regarding mobile food vendors. Mr. Parada, should we discuss it, or you want to make a motion? Or discussion. Go ahead, Mr. Parada.
Okay, I'm concerned if we're on the same page with the county ordinance on the street vendors and food vendors. And if we are, I think we're not enforcing it. And if we're not going to enforce the ordinance, why have them?
Exactly.
I mean, you get them out or fix them up so they can have what they have now. But we have ordinances enforced. If we have a compliance officer and they're not doing his job, then we have to look at that.
Mr. Dewey, want to discuss that, or is anybody else in the council that would like to discuss that?
Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah, I think the remark on the compliance officer, I think we need to have I don't think he's here. We need to have someone here explain, I mean, what exactly does the compliance officer do? Because I mean, I get a lot of calls all during the day, and when I go back, it's always, let's call the compliance officer. But I don't think it's up to us to be doing the job, right?
Right.
I mean, somebody's got to be doing it. If they're being paid to go around town looking for things, at least they can give us a list of what they're doing, and then we would understand what the situation is. I mean, if he gives us a list and there's 40 items on it, well, we understand he's bogged down. But if he gives us a list and there's one item a week on it, then we got a problem here, right?
Oftentimes, if I can jump in, oftentimes the enforcement of our code isn't shouldered by just one individual in our organization. and I'll use this as a case in point, this particular item. It doesn't devalue the merit of what you're talking about, and I totally agree with what you're talking about. But this particular item, and there's others like it, it requires help from other departments. The police department is an example on this, because the code, and I want to talk to you as well about the code, but the ordinance that's in the packet identifies in the definitions section that these mobile food vendors, they have to close their business and move everything out every day or morning at 2 a.m., right? And that gets to the point that was discussed in that letter from the county. Well, nobody is here at 2 a.m. except for our police department. I guess our fire department's out and about, maybe doing some things, but on a regular patrol, it's our police department. Not that the police department would be asked to go and enforce anything, but to be eyes on the street, and we've talked about the benefit of having eyes on the street, is something that's incredibly helpful. And there are times when other departments play a role in the enforcement of our codes. So it's more of a holistic approach on taking care of some of these problems, and I'm happy to see that when items are identified, in addition to whatever we're doing internally, we jump on that as quickly as we can, and we try to take care of business. And I can think of a half a dozen or more examples of that have come to my office, whether it's via people on the street, via the council that say, hey, I was driving here and I see this. We try to jump on that very, very quickly. So, and we'll continue to do that in an effort to make positive change. Again, the points that both you, Mr. Parada, and Mr. Hanessian have made relative to any of our employees, particularly code enforcement, is well taken, and I appreciate that input. I do want to point out, and maybe some help from legal on this particular item. There was an email string that was occurring early this morning, and so I don't expect that any of you have had the benefit of seeing that or knowing about it, but it's regarding this. This ordinance talks about amending a code to identify a mobile food vendor and what defines a mobile food vendor. And that's in this packet right here, okay? And it talks, and it's specifically referenced in the county letter that we got. But the only thing that it talks about is defining a food vendor as somebody who packs everything up and leaves at 2 o'clock in the morning. Well, what if they don't leave at 2 in the morning? I've not been able to, I haven't had any other staff come and show me where else in the ordinance it talks about the requirement for them as a food vendor to leave at 2 in the morning. And so I bring this out because I think that unless some additional information can be provided by either our police department or legal or code compliant officer, we may have to do some amendment on this ordinance in order to make it as clear as we want it to be. Because defining out of a or enforcement out of a definition section, to me, doesn't really play very well. It really ought to be somewhere outside of the definition, and in there saying, hey, you have this business license as a food vendor, you shall vacate the premise, chairs, tables, everything at 2 o'clock in the morning. Because right here it talks about a food vendor being somebody who leaves at 2 in the morning, but what if you don't leave? That means that you're not a food vendor anymore. You're something else. And I just wanted to bring that out as a point that all these things weigh into a difficulty in enforcement.
The other thing we want to bring up, just remember Terrace Avenue. Nobody enforced the ordinance there, and look what we have there, a mess. And this is what we're getting into right now with these vendors. I mean, I know they try to make a living, but then it's also a health issue. And if you haven't got a place to wash your hands or whatever,
go to the bathroom, yes.
And you have a structure already built for you to sit down and eat. I thought a mobile vendor was a drive-through, but you go buy things and you take off. Totally not a permanent deal with it.
Absolutely. So, and I think, I can't speak for any of you, but I know as staff, we totally agree with that. And I've had discussions, obviously we need to do more discussions, but I think everybody's in that same vein, and that's certainly the point that the county is making in their letter. and it has to be addressed. And I think it would be helpful in terms of knowing what direction we have to go, if we can have just a general discussion, and if everybody's kind of along the same lines as Councilmember Parada, then I can work with Joe if we have to tighten up our ordinance a little bit to make it more enforceable, more easily read by the general public in terms of what our expectations are, then we'll do that. If it's just internal staff coordinating, I want you to know that we've already got the ball rolling on that, where there's a coordination between the police department and our code compliant officer in planning and zoning, and as well as revenue, who deals with the business licenses, so that we can start affecting what we're intending to do by the ordinance. So that's already underway.
Mr. Dilly, but are you making a study and identifying the possible violators, or are we going to that extent? Because I think maybe that's one thing we should go.
We are. The police department will help in terms of identifying at that critical time per our ordinance what vendors haven't vacated the premise and which have. And so we can start sending letters out and doing what we have to do by our code.
Did the county do something? How are they identifying this?
I don't think they did the inventory along those lines, but everybody here in the room, all of us, we know that there are some of those vendors, a good portion of them, that aren't moving. Some of them are. Some of them are partially. So we have to take that inventory and start sending those letters out. But again, I think if the ordinance isn't as clear, if what I'm saying is correct, we're trying to enforce off of a definition, we might run into some problems that way, and I'll have more discussion with Joe to see if that's the case or not.
Mr. Parada, we'll just continue on this so that Mr. Parada can get a complete report on this.
Yes, the whole council will.
All right, thank you very much. Item number 7, consideration and possible action of order number 2011-12-089.
So moved, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much.
Is there any background that you guys need on this?
Go ahead, Joe.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, you recall that previously, it was actually before we approved the budget, the police department and my office approached the council on a professional bid that we got, a professional quote we got to do a needs assessment study for the city. The funding for that was tied up in the budget delay, so we got a late start. But in the interim, in the meantime, our police department was successful in approaching another professional consultant that is more local. They're here. They did some facilities here in Tucson. Very capable of doing the job, and they're coming in probably half as much. And so this item is asking council to allow us to move forward with this second professional consultant instead of what we had previously been in front of you with.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 8, consideration possible action of order number 2011-12-090. Motion?
Any
I
background?
move to approve, sir.
Thank
I
you very
move to
much.
approve order number 2011-12-090.
Thank you very much.
Second.
Discussion?
This is, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go
this
ahead.
is for the whole city, or is this just on legal, or this is for Mr. Machado?
I'm sorry for legal.
Well,
Yeah, will be,
you're the one that brought it up, so
You mean, are you talking about,
singular.
yeah.
well, that's the lease amendment for the city's West Hill water tank.
To connect to the water tank.
Oh, for them to connect up there.
Yes.
Well, they're up
Put a
there now.
tower?
Yes.
Put a
They're up
tower?
there now.
At the end
But
of
they were gonna do some modifications to the antenna array they have up there. And that allowed us the opportunity to renegotiate the lease, and also to get their cooperation in terms of the rehabilitation of that gang. So this is what we've agreed to if it's subject to your approval.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 9, consideration possible action of order number 2011-12-02-091. I placed this on the agenda and I'll just open it up for discussion. It's that same item that we placed last time. We had discussed with the representatives from the Mingus project for that corner on Bejarano and west by the cemetery. And it's still in the same way. It hasn't changed on public-private. And as a city, I'm asking the council to see if we can allow us to work together with the Mingus project so that we can utilize that corner and identify Charles Mingus there and have a nice seating area and green area for the community.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
The city would provide the land and private funds would provide any improvements on it?
Yes, that's a talk that I've had with them, and I still have plans of talking to them. They're looking for grants to help build it and create it. And basically, we're looking with the land and maybe some in-kind down the road, because we have a drain there and we have a manhole that are not going to be moved, but in case we need to do some work with a little bit of engineering and stuff like that. That's what I expect from them. And that, as far as I've gone with the discussion with the project personnel for Mingus, they're looking out for grants right now, and it looks like they reached out, and they work very hard every year to try to get money. So they want to identify something, because actually that's the entrance of Camp Little. So it will bring an impact of history and also some public art.
Sounds good.
Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You guys have it. Thank you very much. Item number 10, consideration and possible action of resolution number R2011-12-031.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number R2011-0331
Second.
with the following amendment.
Go ahead, Mr. Parra.
Excluding those employees who receive salary increases pursuant to resolution number 2010-02-001 and resolution number 2010-02002.
Okay. Vice Mayor, you second?
Yes, sir.
You do? Discussion? Could Mr. Dilly or Mr. Machado identify the amendment and the resolution?
I'm sorry?
Could you identify the amendment on the resolution that Mr. Parra just read? From,
I don't have those
you
resolutions
don't
in
have
front
that
of me.
with you?
I have.
Do you have it, Mr. Machado? Well, basically what it is, it's during the restructuring process, members of the audience, during the restructuring process of the fire department, there were some firefighters that got a raise at the time. If I'm not mistaken, Mr. Parra, is that what it is? Got a raise at the time, and since 2007, almost 5 years ago, no employee of the city has gotten a raise. And this was the only time identified as a raise. And basically, Mr. Parra, what you mean is you want to exclude those people that got the raise
They got
to get the...
They got their raises.
Okay.
And this is just strictly for the people they haven't got a raise in all those years.
And this is to identify, this is not a raise, this is just a one-time $500, I guess, holiday payment for the employees. And one of the things that I just want to, say to everybody here is that the money that for this holiday is basically, will probably be coming out from the people that have not been hired. There's been several positions directors' positions that haven't been filled. Also, some personnel hasn't been filled in the city of Nogales. And I look at this, the reason I put it on there, I look at this as an opportunity for our city, because the money that these employees will be receiving will also generate within our community. And also, a lot of these families, I know for a fact that I've talked to, employees of the city, find themselves, some of them even have relatives of them moving in because of the economic situation. So, you know, I know $500 isn't much, but during these days, ending the year is I believe is something that is important for us to do for our employees within the city of Nogales. And that's why I asked Mr. Doty and that I wanted to put this on the agenda. I know the times are not times to give salary increases, but this is not a salary increase. This is just a one-time end of the year payment to help them out. Mr.
Joey, here, I mean, it says cost and source of funding. As the mayor says, you know, there were delays in hiring certain staff. Do we have a figure as to how much money that is? Or because again, my question is, in the second half of the year, when we add those salaries, which we're about to, I think everybody will be filled, hopefully, Public Works is being filled and all the others, will be filled by the end of this month or early part of January?
Our goal is to have the rest of that core management team in Public Works filled the first part of next calendar year. So I don't think, because of the holidays, I don't think much is going to happen between now and the first of the year. But our effort is still underway to do that. It's just a matter of coordinating interviews and moving forward. If the council feels better about amending the ordinance directing staff to first consider salary savings due to unfilled vacancies before you move into utilizing contingencies, my gut is telling me, because I don't have those numbers in front of me, my gut is telling me that most, if not all of it, can be satisfied through unfunded vacancies.
That's my question. I would prefer that none of the contingency funds be used, because we're basically getting to the point of eliminating our contingency fund. In the event that there's not enough in salary savings, I think leaving it open, if it's the desire of the council to make this gesture to staff, directing that sources be found outside of contingency first before you work into contingency, I'm able to do that without any problem. That's fine. That was basically.
Mr. Parada.
Let's put it this way, when Rio Rico wanted to pay what they owe us, I don't know if it's over $1 million or what, they should have been paid by November or December. I think they're going to be charged for late payment.
They should.
You know, it's making this a one-shot deal. After we get some of that funds in, we can replace whatever we use. That's not going to go into the general fund.
Mr. Parada, Mr. Mayor, if I could just build off of what you're saying here. I need to remind the council that the settlement amount of money is not just kind of free money. It's money that is repaying the city for a capital investment that we've made. So we've already spent it, and we're seeking legal settlement to get that money recouped to us. So if it goes somewhere other than paying back the fund where we had that expenditure, then we're creating another problem for ourselves. I think that we probably have enough money in salary savings for unfunded positions to take care of most of this, if not all of it. And so I would prefer to go down that vein than to try to tie in the settlement money, which, as far as I'm concerned, is already earmarked for reimbursement of an expenditure that we had years ago.
Well, actually,
I think that money was borrowed. It was borrowed, so we're just going to be paying it back.
yeah,
Sure.
but you know, the thing is that right after this meeting, we're going to be going into our first budget.
Yes.
Okay. And if we want to discuss monies of people that have not been hired, vacancies and everything, that's the time to do it. That's the time to do it. And I'm sure we're gonna find that just by the figures I got roughly in my head, that I figured on the people that have not been employed, we have sufficient to cover this, to give to our employees, and that's why I wouldn't have done this, Mr. Jelly, if I knew that we weren't in the position to doing it. I'm sure that we can do it, and you know, almost every municipality and every government, even the school district, that's the way they're doing right now, because they cannot afford to give their employees a raise. And as a matter of fact, we're third in line. The school already did it, and I think today the county's doing it too. And Sahuarita, I believe.
Monday night,
Sahuarita did the same thing for their employees. So that's why I'm asking the council, you know, for a vote on this, and if there's any more discussion, let's go for the vote. Yes, Mr.
I think right now is the time to do it because the holiday's going to be upon us in about 10 days. So we have to help out our employees. It'll be a stimulus for our local economy because you give them the money and it's going to spread the wealth all over our city. So it's a great idea, and I think we should do it like right now.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
I agree with you, Mayor. We are on the holidays already, and the community does need help, and that's what we're here for. So all we're doing is trying to help them out a little bit, and I think we should, I support you 100%.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you very much. Well, we'll go for a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much, members of the council. And discussion, possible action on rescheduling the regular council meeting on January 4th, 2012 to January 11th, 2012, and it'll be, I believe, the same time at 6 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yes. Discussion?
If there's any discussion, anybody? Well,
Can I just-
well, Mr. Dilly, he'll explain why it's being done.
So, the council meeting falls right after a holiday and people are traveling. That's one apparent reason. We had to schedule in follow-up to the public hearing notice for the water and sewer rate adjustment on January 11th, which is the very next week on Wednesday. And so given the difficulties of trying to hustle out a council agenda for everybody, making sure that all worked and dealing with everybody's travel schedules over the holidays, it just brought a whole calm to, at least everything that I was feeling in staff about trying to get things ready by just moving that 1 week back, and I wanted to bring it forward to the council for consideration.
Okay, the only reason I had a question on this because I really want to get together with the board, have a study session with it, because we get into a deadline with the hospital lease and so forth, so I want to get it on board so we can get it rolling as fast as we can.
I would venture to say that the type of meeting that we would be coordinating with the county, it takes a lot of coordination and it takes a lot of effort to make that happen, and I don't see that happening the week right after the holiday. So I'm thinking that mid-January to the end of January is probably as soon as we'd be able to meet.
But one thing, if you wish, you and I could go and meet with the supervisor, or two, so, well.
And that might be helpful.
We can too, we don't have a quorum, but you and I can.
But that would be helpful and maybe a precursor to a meeting. You can kind of fill them out on some of the items.
So we can discuss some of the items that we want to place on the agenda before we prepare the agenda. Okay, we can do that.
You would be able to meet with one?
One only.
One only.
One only.
One each day.
One each day. Yeah, we could do that. Okay.
So do we have a?
Yes, a vote on this. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. This meeting's adjourned.